This SNN Special Report, Homeless in Sarasota, is presented by the Gulf Coast Community Foundation and Jewish Family and Children's Service of the Suncoast.
Welcome to an exclusive SNN Special Report on homelessness in Sarasota. I'm Suzanne Lee.
And I'm David Hackett, Assistant Managing Editor of the Sarasota Herald-Tribune. Within blocks of million-dollar condos, bustling culture and commerce, Sarasota continues to struggle with a homeless problem that one national expert has described as off the charts for a city of its size.
SNN TV and the Herald-Tribune spent the better part of the last month reaching out to those without a secure and safe place to call home, as well as those individuals who hold the power to change the system.
According to a 2014 point-in-time homeless survey, there were 1,163 homeless people in Sarasota County. But consultant Robert Marbut, who was hired by the city and county in 2013, says the real number, 3 times larger than that.
So we ask you, what exactly needs to happen to improve homelessness in Sarasota? After all, we are talking about people.
Not every homeless person is an addict.
I'm just sick of being homeless. I had a job, the guy was paying me under the table. I'm not going to mention the company name because he can get in trouble for that. But he went from $100 a day to $80 a day to $60 a day, and then one day he said, I can't use you, my insurance won't cover you. But you've been working me for 4 months under the table with no one knowing about it. But now all of a sudden you can't use me? He just wanted to use me, what he did.
Howard is originally from Philadelphia. He's married, and he remains on the streets of Sarasota, battling to simply keep his bike.
Yeah, I had one before and someone stole it.
Okay, I'm hearing that a lot. So,
yeah.
So this happens all the time?
They come around bolt cutters and they just cut the locks. I won one at the Christmas party down at Whitaker Park. I had it one night, and they cut it.
Dale had a decent start in Ohio when he was younger.
It was Miles Elementary, Alexander Junior High School, Max's Hayes Vocational School. And
Were you a good student?
Yeah. To get in Max Hayes, you had to be at least a B average. Then I did 2 years college in robotics. I got out of the service.
And then his parents died.
My brother got the house and I got thrown out.
His goal? Just to find a place to put his trailer.
And if I could find a place to put that, I would be homeless.
And his message for those who care?
Just because we're homeless doesn't mean we want to be. You know, we're trying to get ourselves back together.
We met Howard and Dale at this year's National Point in Time Homeless Survey held in January on a donated 4-acre piece of land used by Trinity Without Borders. The grassroots homeless assistance program was started by Valerie Guillory, who on this day was auctioning off 3 bikes to encourage homeless people to show up.
Personally, I was homeless for probably 15 years, being addicted and having mental health issues, and I was on the streets with nothing. So when I finally got clean about 12 years ago, I just had a heart for going back and trying to help the people who I left out there.
She says addiction is a factor, but not the only reason for taking to the streets.
A lot of mental health issues, and there's a lot of people who are just in between a rock and a hard place because of the economy.
Vernon Hughes, who admittedly had beer for breakfast, lives on the streets in the Rosemary district. He says he was raped by his father at 14.
I left, and I've been on the streets ever since 14 years old, and I'm 43.
David Dubendorf is part of the Sarasota Police Homeless Outreach Team, and he's been trying to get Vernon off the streets for a long time.
I mean, it's not good for you. It's not good for her. You need better health care. You're still a young dude, man. You're still young.
43, man.
But it's not going to be young much longer, man. You know, it's going to get harder and harder. And I mean, look at Willie over there. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to be like that?
Yells at everybody.
Do you want to be like that?
No.
And when I first started 10 years ago, our homeless population was a lot smaller than this.
So you've seen it grow?
Oh, in the last month.
The homeless self-designated the Rosemary district near the Salvation Army and Resurrection House their gathering spot after the city chased them away from Main Street in recent months. Former city commissioner and current Sarasota County Commissioner Paul Caragiulo says others made a clear decision not to act on a 24/7 come-as-you-are shelter.
Although I was never involved in any of these conversations, I get the sense that at some point there were those who said, Absolutely not going to occur at all. Under no circumstances would there be any of this type of facility within the city limits, and ultimately that's what occurred.
What's the ultimate question for city commissioners and city manager Tom Barwin today?
I might ask, how serious is the city about trying to address the issue?
We're very proactive, okay? The folks that want us to wave a wand and open up a shelter or write a check to have every homeless person in a home have to understand the city doesn't have the money to do that.
Sarasota Vice Mayor Susan CHAPMAN says they know how many people are homeless within the city limits.
So you have to decide what is the city, what are the boundaries of the city, and work from there. We have a homeless outreach team that reaches out to all of the homeless individuals in this city, and it's closer to 300 to 400 people.
She stresses the city wasn't alone in their vote to discontinue shelter site discussions.
There was a 5-0 discussion in which we voted not to go forward with the Come As You Are shelter, as did the county commission vote 5-0.
In talking with Wayne Applebee, the county's homeless coordinator, he paints quite a different picture.
And again, the county commission was very clear. They're still today 100% supportive of a Come As You Are shelter, because they believe that's can have the broadest impact on the community for the funding that we have available. And so they believe, and when they passed the motion to place this on hold, it really was with the caveat when the city was ready to come back and be a partner in that.
The county might be waiting a while, since CHAPMAN says she has other ideas.
We're working on comprehensive planning for a cost-effective program, and Housing First is the national example.
You know, it's a classic diversionary tactic. Oh, no, you want to do this. You want to look at, why aren't we doing this? Housing First and all these other terms that you want thrown out, which is completely disingenuous, because, you know, if a certain community has a problem with a Come As You Are shelter because of the population who are the incumbents of that facility, you're not going to tell me for a second they're going to have any less of an issue with a Housing First, public housing complex. It's going to function the same way. It's going to be the folks who are inside those buildings are the same folks. So, I mean, it's totally not realistic.
Family out here, family over in Ohio, family in Ocala. Family everywhere. Homeless.
Over the last month, SNN and the Herald-Tribune interviewed more than 50 people connected to Sarasota's homeless. We spoke with city and county officials, members of law enforcement, social service agencies, and the homeless themselves. What emerges is a complex problem that has led to plenty of finger-pointing, but no solutions.
In 2006, the city of Sarasota was named the meanest city for its treatment of homeless people by the National Coalition for the Homeless in Washington, D.C. This in part for the city's poor treatment of them. The city did not make the list in 2009. However, just 3 years later, this video surfaced of a Sarasota police officer ramming a man's head into the wall of the city's bus station.
Headlines such as these have not helped the city's image, despite many good people investing their time and money to make a difference.
When we come back, you'll hear portions of interviews with city and county leaders, including City Manager Tom Barwin, who says the city works hard every day to solve homelessness in Sarasota.
To share your thoughts on homelessness, use the hashtag HomelessInSRQ and tweet at SNN TV, Suzanne Lee, or David Hackett.
For too many children in Sarasota County, there's no place called home. Up to 1,000 students are identified as homeless during the school year, and that does not include their younger siblings, parents, or guardians. Gulf Coast Community Foundation is honored to partner with local organizations to build a system of care and address the needs of homeless children and their families. We thank local government officials and generous donors who have helped. But our work is not over, and we need your help. If you see a family in need, please call 211. To learn more about how you can help, visit gulfcoastcf.org/help. It will take us working together to help make homes come true for every child and family. Please help.
Welcome back to Homeless in Sarasota, an SNN Herald-Tribune Special Report.
We begin with City Manager Tom Barwin, who came to Sarasota in 2012, well aware of the city's homeless troubles. Barwin says the city has taken a very proactive role in hiring national homeless consultant Dr. Robert MARBUT, and says the city implemented all but one of MARBUT's recommendations.
The only recommendation that he made that wasn't able to be implemented was the creation of a so-called come-as-you-are shelter located in close proximity to the other shelter that's already here. And both the City Commission and the County Commission were not able to implement that. That recommendation failed by a 5-0 vote at the County Commission and a 5-0 vote at the City Commission, unanimous across both governing bodies, mostly because the costs of his recommendation were way beyond the expectations anyone had in mind or budgeted.
The city and county did in fact vote 5-0 to discontinue discussions on a 24/7 come-as-you-are shelter. Wayne Applebee, the homeless coordinator hired by the county to work on the issue full-time, says the county vote should not be misinterpreted.
So when the city and the county commission kind of, placed that decision of the adult shelter on hold, and again, the county commission was very clear. They're still today 100% supportive of a come-as-you-are shelter because they believe that's can have the broadest impact on the community for the funding that we have available. And so they believe, and when they passed the motion to place this on hold, it really was with the caveat when the city was ready to come back and be a partner in that.
Paul Caragiulo has been involved with both city and county government. His last day on the city commission was November 17, 2014, and the next day he started his new job as county commissioner for District 2. The homeless community designated Caragiulo a homeless hero and awarded him a handmade superhero doll to show their appreciation for all of his hard work on the issue. He explains where his interpretation on a 24/7 shelter breakdown occurred.
Basically, it was a breakdown between the county's involvement and the city's involvement over the location of a come-as-you-are shelter, something like Pinellas Safe Harbor, whatever terminology you'd like to use. Ultimately, it resulted in exactly and eerily what the consultant had sort of forecasted, that the breakdown would occur to the politics of where you locate such a facility. And in this case, that's exactly what occurred. There are those in this city whose, the entire chronic homeless problem is predominantly focused within the city limits. Therefore, location of a facility should be among that population. There was no agenda to place the facility in any particular area other than if it met a certain set of criteria. However, the consultant did forecast that there would be a huge battle about the location, and that's ultimately what happened.
Caragiulo believed a few on the city commission had their minds made up.
I think that although I was never involved in any of these conversations, I get the sense that at some point there were those who said absolutely not going to occur at all. Under no circumstances would there be any of this type of facility within the city limits, and ultimately that's what occurred.
City leaders had said it was a new day in dealing with the problem when both the city and the county hired national homeless consultant Dr. Robert MARBUT to help solve the problem. 11 of the 12 recommendations MARBUT made in his 2013 report have been implemented in some fashion, with the exception of a 24/7 homeless triage and stabilization unit. When asking Vice Mayor Susan Chapman if the city of Sarasota wasted money,
yes.
Tell me why you think it was a waste of money.
The parts that have been accomplished in the MARBUT report were already well underway. Housing homeless families, the Come-As-You-Are shelter, with more research we found is a very expensive, not sustainable program that really doesn't have the results that we would like to see.
MARBUT considers Susan Chapman among those city commissioners set on not having a Come-As-You-Are shelter within the city limits.
Oh, I've heard that. And since when does a consultant become a policymaker is my question. Dr. MARBUT has great skills in manipulating the media. He has great skills in, he's very charismatic. He's very convincing. He can call me an obstructionist if he wants, but his program is not the mainstream of what is successful.
The city of Sarasota has an overnight shelter at the Salvation Army facility on 10th and Central, which opened in 2003. That facility has 220 beds, but sleeps 260 adults when mats are used in the dining room for emergency shelter.
Is this considered a 24/7 come-as-you-are shelter?
The term come as you are, no. So it is a 24/7 shelter, and we have many ways for people to come in. I think the question is do we allow people who may be having difficulties or inebriation coming in? And so there's a social behavior that's expected for the shelter, and there are programs that are 24/7. It is not a day center. It is not just a drop-in center, but it is a center for programs.
The homeless have designated the sidewalks near the Salvation Army and Resurrection House their 24/7 come-as-you-are shelter. Some have been in these locations as long as 1 year. Many are banned from the Resurrection House or the Salvation Army for not following program rules. These are the people Sarasota Police Homeless Outreach Team member David DUBENDORF meets daily as homeless traffic continues to grow.
It's been the last year. We have tons of services. We're hearing people from all around, and mostly it's coming from Florida. I mean, I'm not having a lot of people coming from all around the United States. Not saying that I don't, but the majority is the ones that are coming are from the surrounding counties. You know, they're hearing about the services that we have here, and that's an attraction. You know, the thought when Dr. MARBUT suggested us to do the come-as-you-are shelter, that brought some. Some people are being told, hey, there's services here. So that's what's bringing them.
Like
Absolutely not.
County officials say they want the city to come back to the table on a shelter discussion.
Tom, the county is very frustrated. They feel as though this is the city's issue to start picking up the ball and moving it forward. They're willing to participate as well, but they would like to see the city step up and take some ownership. Do you feel that you've done that?
Absolutely. You know, the city originally brought a consultant in for the first time ever. The city has deployed caseworkers out on the street for the first time ever. We are in a close partnership with all of our service agencies in town. We've helped find 30 to 40 people housing over the last 3 or 4 months. Those are very proactive measures. And you know, when we get into the heavy lifting of how we're going to bring additional caseworkers, mental health, sheltering, and permanent housing to the scene, you know, that has to be a partnership with the bigger levels of government. A small city just does not have the resources to cover it. The federal and state dollars flow to our county, and we have to get away from pitting city versus county. Let's focus on the issue. Let's understand how government is organized to function. Let's understand who has what role to play and play it.
I think that, you know, currently it's difficult to have that conversation because we have we have a city commission election that will happen in March. So we don't know, you know, we don't know if the current sitting commission will be there in 2 months. And so I think as those issues settle out politically, then there may be a time for that discussion. The vehicle of which the discussion happens, it would be up to obviously someone other than myself, but I think at some point, you know, those conversations will happen in some vehicle form.
This is going to be in your face every day. You're going to see reminders every day. There's no hiding. There's nowhere to hide here, and we have to address it. And I believe the county is here, willing and able to do their part. And we'll just have to see how serious everyone is.
When we come back, we'll talk with Valerie Guillory with Trinity Without Borders, an organization she started after living on the streets for 12 years. And we sit down with homeless consultant Robert MARBUT, who says the city of Sarasota is in real denial about the homeless survey numbers.
Want to tell us what you think? Tweet us using the hashtag HomelessInSRQ throughout the program.
JFCS prevents homelessness amongst families and veterans within our community. Serving the Suncoast since 1985, we provide intensive case management, supportive counseling, education, financial, and housing assistance to those in need. We're privileged and proud to say we have served more than 3,500 families, 8,000 children, and 700 veteran families. For more information or to access our services, please visit our website at jfcs-cares.org or call 366-2224.
Welcome back to Homeless in Sarasota and SNN TV and Herald-Tribune Special Report. Every January, the federal government requires cities to quantify the number of homeless people in a community and the demographics of that population.
SNN visited one of the many sites conducting the 2015 point-in-time survey. It was held in January just off of 301 in Sarasota, and that's where we met Valerie Guillory. Guillory says she was a homeless prostitute and a drug user on the streets for 12 years. After getting clean, she created Trinity Without Borders. It's a grassroots homeless organization that focuses on giving back to the people she left on the streets.
With this economy sliding down the way it did, there was nothing there to catch it. And, you know, this is what you see. You see so many good people at heart. You just look around, you know, they're all good people just like me and you, but their circumstances have brought them here.
Attention, 5, 6, 7.
During the homeless survey, Valerie raffled off 3 bikes to encourage homeless people to show up to be properly counted. She says her days frequently include working with homeless men and women who choose not to be in a structured program.
Up until several months ago, we had a major homeless camp right off to the side. So we were basically doing supportive services for the camp. But then at any given time, you know, we have this organization, Trinity Without Borders, kind of attracts the families and the people who have burned their bridges in other places, the people who are kind of hard to manage and who just don't have a lot of opportunities. So like on any given day, you know, I could have a family, I could come in the morning and there's a family sleeping on my property because they got thrown out of somewhere else. And this place kind of has the reputation of being the last resort.
We interviewed Valerie almost 2 years ago as she helped her friends move out of a homeless camp during a citywide cleanup.
There ain't too many places left unless you go out to 17th Street, ride the railroad tracks.
Last week, Sarasota police told those living here that they had 5 days to move their belongings for good. City officials even gave an extra extension so the homeless could figure out what's next. By Tuesday morning, what was left was quickly scooped up and hauled away for good. Some say time ran out too quickly.
They want you out of town, push you back somewhere, you know, where you can't be seen.
Those who lent time and even a moving truck to help out say the problem hits close to home.
I am one of them. I'm still the same person I was 15 years ago, sleeping behind dumpsters and using drugs and raising Cain. I'm still the same. I've just changed my way.
A recent newspaper article spotlights Florida as a hotspot for veterans, which is nothing new for Kevin MELLENCAMP. He works with homeless veterans at Trinity Without Borders and says some veterans don't have military pensions or even updated job training to fall back on.
And they sometimes, if they're asked to leave, which is they get like a severance pay, but if they don't do full 20, they don't get retirement, which is a monthly stipend, which I'm a 20-year Navy vet, which I'm fortunate enough to have that, or if they don't have disability. So they don't have any money and they have to rely on unemployment, which is something that we don't want to rely on. So what do? They might not have the same skills that they did. Maybe they were a gunner in the military and they didn't know what to do, and they can't. Obviously, they're not going to be a gunner in the civilian world around here. We would hope not. But the transferable skills, how to pay attention to detail, how to do talking with customers, and how to do things that they did in the military to be on a team and to be structured. That's what the employers are looking for.
He says veterans can go to trinitywithoutborders.com for more assistance.
And I wanted to make sure that they know that they can get some help right now from other people within Trinity. And what I want to make sure also is that if I don't have the answer, I'll get it for them.
Homeless consultant Dr. Robert MARBUT first came to Sarasota at the request of the Gulf Coast Community Foundation and eventually was hired by both the city and the county to study homelessness. During his career, he's visited almost 700 homeless sites, and as part of his research, he lived on our streets for a short term to better understand the inner workings of the Suncoast homeless. MARBUT issued his final report in November of 2013, which included a set of 12 recommendations for a county and city action plan. MARBUT says there's a need for homeless triage when coming off the streets.
And you have many people in Sarasota who've been on the street 20 years. We've found many people 25 and 30 years here. So you just don't come off the street and suddenly say, go get a job, we clean you up, shower. It doesn't work that way, and that's just simply naive.
Yeah.
When a person comes in to a Come As You Are facility, the first 10 days are actually all about hydration and sleep, because you have such sleep deprivation on the street and you have hydration on the street. The irony is there's plenty of food on the street, and that's a big misnomer and myth out there. A lot of people equate homelessness and hunger, and that is just simply not the truth. But hydration is big because people don't want to go to the bathroom and don't want to get arrested and such, so they hydrate, and so they drink less liquids. And also, you never get real good sleep on the street, ever. I would challenge anybody. I challenge you, if you want to go spend a night on the street, and you'll see that you just simply aren't going to get sleep. And so that first 10 days of the recovery process is about hydration and sleep before you really get into case management or job application or mental health issues or addictive disorder issues. Way before that, you got to start with hydration and sleep.
So it's a commitment far beyond just providing a bed.
Oh, this is way more complex than a bed.
Yeah.
Way more complex than food. It's a whole holistic system if you want to get real graduation rates. It has to treat all the bodily systems, the mental health systems, the physical systems, and the economic systems.
Was that illuminating to people down here? I mean, or did they have, what was the reaction when you sort of told them that it's going to be a lot deeper than, even just building a shelter?
Well, I think there's a naivete that's not uncommon in a lot of places that says, I'm just going to do this, and then suddenly the problem's fixed.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to outlaw this, or I'm going to make this illegal, and I'm just to fix that. That is just simply naive. It will never work. The cities that really, and communities that really get great improvement make great changes. And they change it at the root cause, they change it culturally, and they change the entire system. And when you do that, you have great success. Yeah. But if you want to do gimmicks or just some one-offs or just some, I'm going to do this, and then think you're turning some buttons and you're going to change it, it won't make it. In fact, sometimes it actually makes things worse.
Interesting.
Dr. MARBUT says in 2014, previous surveys showed a little more than 2,000 homeless individuals in Manatee and Sarasota counties combined. MARBUT says he asked for more data in the form of additional surveys because there's an undercounted formula that is understood in the research.
Generally, the rule of thumb is multiply that by 2 to 3 times to get the real number. And there are a lot of different reasons why that happens, but the methodology, and this is true throughout the entire country, undercounts especially the chronic street homeless.
Well, give us perspective there. So if you're talking about being undercounted by 2 to 3 times, you're looking at upwards of 6,000 homeless people in this area. For a community this size, is that high, low?
Off the charts.
Really?
You literally, any measure you measure, your chronic men and women or your adult men and women, you're off the charts. You're off the chart by percent of population. You're off the chart of how many people are in the jail. When we did a measurement of the jail, we took a 1-week period, just randomly picked the middle of the summer. 23% of the jail population is homeless. That's just, and everybody wants to build a jail. The simplest way to stop building a jail is address your homeless population. Now, some of the homeless are violent and are in for violent reasons. I'm not saying get out of jail card for those individuals. Yeah. They need to stay in jail. But easily 80, 90% of that group could easily be on the outside and not in jail. And it not just clogs jail, but it clogs the court systems, the parole, the probation, throughout the entire system.
I mean, do you think there was a recognition of your numbers and your findings among the powers that be in this community?
The powers that be in the community, I think, believe the overall number, and almost everybody in the community, especially the people who work with it, understand those numbers. The sheriff office understands it, the court system, the public defender, the county commissioners, most of the cities. Where the city of Sarasota's leadership, they kept claiming the numbers were outside. And they were claiming it wasn't literally within about a mile of where the studio is. But when you start to look at the numbers, and you look at the point-in-time numbers, it says it's right here. Well, they didn't believe that number. So we went out and did a survey. the survey number actually had more people in the Sarasota than the point in time count. Well, they didn't believe that number. Then we started looking at the fire response, because the fire gives you real good data, gives you to the block unit. You look at the fire data, it's almost 70% in there. And then we looked at, the HUD numbers, and it's even higher than that. And so we looked at 4 different ways to look at the data. And on an average, 70% are within a mile radius of downtown Sarasota. That's for the entire county. And so after 4 different measurements, they all show the center of the adult chronic population is in downtown city of Sarasota. And there's real denial about that.
Why? I mean, you're bringing this information to them. Why is there denial?
And what's I think is funny is fire department data is sort of their data. Jail data is the county data. And we looked at the jail data both in terms of the initial offense or the second offense, and it's still high. And I think there's a denial, because if you admit that's a problem and you admit it's in one place, that means you have to handle it there.
Sarasota City Manager Tom Barwin feels confident in the city's own data and research.
We've not only seen the people living on the streets in and around the city, but we know them. We
have a homeless outreach team that reaches out to all of the homeless individuals in this city, and it's closer to 300 to 400 people.
While the players disagree on the number of Sarasota's homeless, Chapman disputes the need for a shelter.
I had mixed feelings about it. I was very much disturbed about increasing the criminal laws, and then when people don't agree to be in the program, that you put them in an area outside that is surrounded by razor wire and has picnic tables and a privy. I thought if you put an animal there, you would be charged with animal cruelty. It was not exactly what I expected as a humane type of shelter. And then when I heard there was some plan to put whatever shelter they were planning by the sewage treatment plant, I was appalled. I mean, how is that supposed to create some sense of humanity or helping people when you put it right next to the sewage treatment plant?
MARBUT says some city commissioners took issue with every site for a 24/7 Come As You Are shelter within city limits.
The ultimate problem was the city of Sarasota turned down 15 sites. We looked at over 100 sites, recommended 15, and they turned down all 15. The county approved 13 of the 15. The city turned down all 15. And the sad thing is the best site, the one that was actually the cheapest site, the site that you could, the lowest cost, fastest operational, you literally could get something operating in a week. You could get relief in a week, and already has homeless services on there. The city voted a week before Wayne APPLEBEE went to go to present it. They actually voted down, said they didn't want to see the presentation.
The week prior to that joint commission, the city had a regular city commission meeting, and they brought up the topic of this new site at 209 North Lime Avenue, and voted to take it off the list before it was presented at the joint commission meeting, or before the county commission could react to the site or even hear the information.
County Commissioner Paul Caragiulo says a workable solution will never keep everyone happy.
It's going to take being okay with some folks being outraged, perhaps at various different levels. It's going to take a tremendous amount of political will. Because of the political environment, especially within the city of Sarasota, where there's so much apathy, there are so few people that participate in the process. You know, it's all governed by this thing where you get 4 or 5 people to a meeting and it can knock everything off course. It's not proportional, it's not equitable, and it's sometimes it doesn't seem legitimate. And we just have to get past all that. Everything in Sarasota has to turn into a pageant. Instead of just making the decision and going through with it, we have to have, we have to make sure that we have the grand ball and we have the meetings and we have the it's at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. Right. Do you want public input? Yes. Nothing occurs without public input. Contrary to what you can't buy a box of paper clips without having public meetings. So the whole idea that something could happen without people knowing is anathema to the way people communicate, and certainly to the high level of scrutiny that goes with local government within this community. But at some point, you got to stop talking and you got to start doing, or the doing never gets done.
Coming up, we'll focus on the Rosemary District, which has seen a large influx of people sleeping on the streets.
We want to hear from you. Use the hashtag #HomelessInSRQ during the show.
JFCS has been a proud partner providing services to the citizens of Suncoast since 1985. One of our key programs is homeless prevention services for families as well as veterans. The target of this program is to create sustainability and hope for those that we serve. Please join us in this important mission. Thank you.
For more information or to access our services, please visit our website at jfcs-cares.org or call 366-2224.
Welcome back to Homeless in Sarasota, an SNN Herald-Tribune special report.
After the city of Sarasota responded to business complaints of homeless people gathering on Main Street, the homeless migrated to the Rosemary District in heavier than usual numbers.
This has raised concern for a number of businesses and property owners who are trying to operate establishments despite having to answer questions from customers about Sarasota's #1 social problem.
The change over the last year is the increase, absolute increase in the population of people that are living on the sidewalk. And I actually, the gentleman he's not here right now. He's actually right there behind the white blanket. I can tell you I've seen his face for a year, sitting right there for a year, not gone anywhere. Same gentleman, usually had an older woman next to him, and now she's not there anymore, but there's a younger guy with him now.
Anything else you want us to know as we put the story together on some of the struggles and collisions that are happening here?
That is constant. The yelling, the fighting, the aggression, and you'll see it peak on a Friday because there's some income that comes in, and then there's an increase in whatever they're taking, and then it will get out of hand, and then it will calm down in the early part of the week.
It's really the atmosphere is what it hurts.
John SHEINTAL owns the multiple properties that make up Rosemary Court.
Because this is a place where people come for healing and serenity. And a lot of times we just don't have that feeling with all the loud cursing and angry voices that we're hearing out on the street. And just coming and going, it just creates a stressful type of feeling.
Have you lost any tenants as a result of what you're
Well,
facing?
I've lost several tenants that were doing massage and acupuncture because, yeah, their customers couldn't deal with it. It was hard to conduct a massage session and hear the angry voices out on the street. So they just had to leave. And they had been here over 10 years, too.
I wouldn't say that I'm the most informed on the politics of the city and all of the ins and outs of what's legal and why, but what I constantly ask myself is, why is this okay?
Rosemary Birthing Center owner Harmony Miller.
Why is there nothing being done about it? And so on either side, there's an issue with the people that are sleeping on the streets that needs to be addressed for them, and then there's an issue for the city and for the business owners. And I feel like if what you can see here across the street was happening on Main Street, it wouldn't be happening.
Michael Bush, president of the Rosemary Homeowners Association and owner of Home Resource, says new development is happening in the district, but don't be fooled.
The police would tell you we don't have adequate resources to deal with this, all right? You know, one hot team is not enough. This is just one location. This is Central Avenue. If you go to Kumquat, you know, you've got only, I can't even tell you the number of people that are resident in Kumquat. Then you've got all the different camps that are perhaps not even visible, but certainly there's a significant homeless community that's here in town that is far greater than the capacity of a single team.
What are your thoughts when you look at this?
You know, I think it's sad. You know, I think it's, you know, there's, you know, what we need to do is we need to, I think we need to focus on the fact that there is a quality of life issue, not only associated with the citizens of Sarasota, but also with the people that live on the streets. You know, it's sad. It's sad.
What would your members want the city to know?
Do something. It's as simple as that. All right. You know, it's you know, we've been asked to endure. Again, I go back. We've been asked to endure for 12 years, and so it's not. It's, yes, the trigger point at the moment is the current administration, but you could say, you know, everybody kicked the can for the last 12 years, and it's, you know, we've reached enough. It's time for people to dig in.
Coming to you from WSLR live in Sarasota, I'm John Davis, the host of NPR's Morning Edition.
The Rosemary District was under the national spotlight in February when the 17th annual Homeless Radio Marathon came to Sarasota to broadcast for 14 hours straight. WSLR General Manager David Beaton stayed up all night and says the station's airwaves acted as the conduit to the nation.
Well, I think there was probably 60 homeless people sleeping inside the facilities tonight, and we were broadcasting live from the patio, as you can see from behind us. It was I don't know if you would say it was a good turnout. It is a turnout. It's in some places it might be shameful that there's this kind of turnout, that 60 people turn out, have nowhere to sleep for the night. And it rained last night, as you can see outside, and it's cold this morning. Temperatures dropped, so it was good that we had the shelter, and I think this was a good case to show why we need to address this issue.
Beaton's radio station is located right next to Resurrection House and has employed several homeless men to perform handyman jobs, allowing him to develop personal relationships with them. He now believes a triage shelter facility is needed.
Well, a 24/7 shelter would help them with some of their daily needs, whether it be from inclement weather, whether it be facilities. There's a great need for bathroom facilities, whether it be personal hygiene, whether it be for a cup of coffee. To give a person dignity, they need to at least have some of the basic needs, and a roof over their heads, a place to lay their head at night, a place to take care of themselves, and where they feel comfort. I think living outside on the street, we see a daily basis here at the station, and there's a lot of tension on the street. There's fear. They don't know of different factors, whether it be the weather, the police department, disgruntled businesses. So they do need to have a place, and we're really fortunate for Resurrection House, but it is only a day center. And so if you are fortunate enough to get into Salvation Army, you have to be up at 5:30 in the morning. I was talking to the guys last night, and then they're on the street for 3 hours waiting for Resurrection House to open. So 3 hours at 5:30 in the morning, it's pretty cold outside, nowhere to go, nowhere to take care of your needs.
I've been in Sarasota 4 years, and I have some questions, I guess, to ask these folks right here.
Robert Trebasovsky attended the National Homeless Marathon.
I've been missing out on all the feedings. My new saying is when somebody says, "How's it going?" I say, "Eating dirt."
And shared his story of how one mistake ruined his life.
4 years ago, I came to Sarasota on a job lead for Longboat Key, and my van had bad tags from not paying my insurance. And when I got onto the island of Longboat Key, I got pulled over by a police officer, and they impounded the van and took me to jail. By the time I got out of jail, it was too much to get the van out. I didn't have a license to do it anyway, so I lost my $2,500 van and became homeless. And to keep the job and do bus routes back and forth just wasn't feasible with the weather, the rain, and getting wet, and so I couldn't keep up with the work, to be soaking wet and getting to work and walking in the rain and whatnot, and it just wasn't working. So I became homeless. So I got me a tent and found me a little cubby hole to pitch my tent along the railroad tracks and camouflaged it, and that's where I live.
Both Sarasota city and county leaders have been at an impasse for more than a year on alleviating homelessness in the city. Vice Mayor Susan Chapman wants to take a different approach.
Housing First is a program in which you provide housing to stabilize the person. Then you provide services that encourage the person, but not tough love approach as Dr. Marbut had.
She says, "I don't like yours, I like mine," but then she's never, if she likes her so well, why doesn't she put it on the table and let's get some votes on it? And hers is not a bad program. It works in some communities. It's not ideal. It's a pretty expensive tool, but there's a place and a role for it. But let's put it up. Let's put it on a vote.
Yeah.
And she won't even make she's not even made a motion ever to vote for it. But she votes against everything I suggest.
Turning Point's executive director, ADELE EROZER, supports a Housing First program. She says it's the housing that's not affordable.
The big problem for us is lack of affordable housing. And it's not even that. Right now I have several programs which pay for rent for people who are chronically homeless, and it's the goal is to get them into housing. Again, that is a Housing First model. We're getting them into the rental situation, and then we're trying to help them get the employment they need to sustain themselves. And the problem is that with the rents going up so much, we're having a big problem finding landlords who would be willing to work with us to be able to house these people in a sustainable environment. I mean, something that used to be $600 a month, and you know, I can get a mother with a couple kids in something like that, now is $900. That's a huge increase, and there's just not that much rental housing available.
Nearly all the solutions are written in code somewhere. We need to start following codes. We need to know that when we develop housing that says, okay, we need to take a look at affordable housing when we create 9,000 more units, that we actually take a serious look at affordable housing. When we look at zoning and we say, hey, zoning requires an investment in affordable housing, we do that. When we pay our tax stamps on properties and they go up to the state and we say that's meant to be affordable housing, that we stop using it only for economic development. Federal funds, state funds, county funds can be used, and we start saying zoning is important and we would rather have our neighbors housed than on the streets. And then all of a sudden what we see is it's roughly a $22,000 savings per person per year by taking a housing approach. And the issue is that can work, but then we have to determine for those who may come to the community who don't want housing, how are we going to mitigate that?
The one thing that we don't have in either county, again, is that low threshold facility. And that's something that we definitely need, both of us, to be able to help those people who are the most chronically homeless and would have the least probably success in a Housing First model.
With local governments struggling to find housing for those in need, private enterprise has entered the void. Businessman Harvey Vengroff has converted 4 hotels on US 41 to affordable housing, charging $575 per month, and he plans to convert 5 more. It's community-minded, action-oriented people that have made the difference in alleviating homelessness for families and children in Sarasota County. John Thaxton, Director of Community Investment for the Gulf Coast Community Foundation.
And so I thought what a great symbolism it is for us to be out here with chilled toes and chilled hands. And the only comfortable place is right inside these walls.
The Gulf Coast did it because they have a very dedicated board of directors and donors who care very much about this issue. And they saw the lack of things being done in the community, so they decided to do something about it themselves. So they began convening all of the not-for-profit agencies that provide services to homeless children and families, and started creating a network where the agencies were not only communicating, but they were coordinating their efforts in a more effective and efficient way to get the services to the homeless children and families. It was most remarkable because all of the municipalities and Sarasota County in the county, Sarasota County government in the county, participated in the help and assistance with the homeless children and families, both in terms of the portals and funding the computer network and cooperating with the master case management services.
So what can be duplicated from the Foundation's leadership and social service agency footprints toward reducing homeless adults?
Well, I think most everything in the model can be applied, but what needs to happen first is we need to put the past behind us. We have new leadership in place, and it's time for that leadership to step up and put forth a concerted effort and show the rest of the community that if the governments can work together, then certainly the rest of us can. And we can impact the adult chronic population in Sarasota County in a very meaningful way. If we have this attitude now of working together, we've shown that we can come together with homeless children and families. I think the first step should be a small step. Rather than trying to tackle the big triage or something monumental right out of the chute, probably we should look at our strengths and choose an easy first win and get that behind us, and then we'll move on to the more difficult issues. The first step, though, is just moving in a positive direction together. It's a new day, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to show the rest of the country just how great of a community Sarasota really is.
It's a new day for Dexter Charles Davis III, who's been homeless on the streets of Sarasota with a torn ligament in his knee for almost 4 years.
I haven't seen my youngest daughter, she's now 15. I haven't seen her in 4 years. It's time to see my baby.
I am a case manager for Dexter. I'm part of Hope and Progress. We do some outreach on the corner of 9th and Central. Dexter has been there since this program has started, and he was one of my projects to get out of here. I picked 3 of the most vulnerable people, and he was one of the 3. And the only thing that kept Dexter here was his shame to call home and ask for a place to come home. And after a year of case management and working with Dexter, we built up his confidence to make that call. He made the call. His aunt was glad to welcome him home, which is part of the criteria for us to send someone home. They have to have someone that will accept them on the other end, so that we're actually ending their homelessness and not just transporting our homeless from one place to another. The first step is just to get to know this person's name and know a little bit of their story. Once you know that, then you just start building the trust between them. Tell them some of your story. And it's just case management. I mean, every day, in outreach, every day, just going out to him, asking him how he's doing. Did he eat today? Is he cold? Does he need socks? You know, just trying to show compassion towards the population out there. When he started coming in for assessments, before it was just a hello, goodbye. Then it was, oh, let me tell you some of my story. Then it was, DESHANE, hey, how you doing? How your girls doing this morning? So once he knew my story and I knew his, it kind of opened up that bond that you could have with a human. And I would say that took maybe a year to build that relationship with him.
So what I try to do is, now down here, is talk to these younger kids. You don't have to be out here doing this nonsense on the streets and doing whatever. Chasing drugs or doing whatever you're doing.
With the help of the Salvation Army Center for Hope, Dexter called his family in Ohio and will get his much-needed knee surgery, but not before giving a message to his street mates.
Always strive to be better than you are right now, what you're doing right now. You have to change your ways. And the biggest thing I can tell you, pick up the Bible. Because in the Bible, as thick as the Bible is, it's only 10 things he asks us to do. There's only 10 commandments. We can't even get the 10 right.
It's unclear how a March election for 2 city commissioners will impact a decision for Housing First or possibly resurrect plans for a shelter.
Now, in speaking with Vice Mayor Suzanne Chapman, she seems very focused on working toward a Housing First program, saying she needs only 3 votes. But it's also uncertain how the upcoming city election could affect her vision.
We have a list of resources available at SNNTV.com, which will offer assistance through utility payments, food services, and other programs, as well as shelter resources for the Salvation Army or the Day Center at Resurrection House.
In preparing for the show, we learned many things, but one in particular. If you do not want to be homeless, there are hundreds of good people in the city and the county who are willing to help you. It is those who reject the police homeless outreach team or other social assistance programs that appear to be creating the need for an alternative solution.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you found Homeless in Sarasota informative. I'm David Hackett.
And I'm Suzanne Lee. Good night.
See what others on the Suncoast think about homelessness. Check out hashtag HomelessInSRQ on Twitter now.
This SNN Special Report, Homeless in Sarasota, is presented by the Gulf Coast Community Foundation and Jewish Family and Children's Service of the Suncoast.